Hi, welcome to Things Podcast, where you get kids' views on world news. Um, as you can see, we are still going strong. With a new editor, we can now get videos out, hopefully much faster. And not only that, we have a new member joining us today. His name is Lewis. Lewis, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Luis, and I'm Spanish.
Thank you, Lewis. Moving on to our first story, presented by Y. Streaming in classes. Is it good or bad? And just for anyone who is unaware, streaming is when you segregate or put people in different classes in school based on ability.
So, we are talking about this because of a recent article from newsroom.co.nz. They argue that school streaming destroys kids' self belief by, if they are put in a bad class, even if they are pretty smart, they won't think that they're smart and they won't think that they're able to achieve academically. So, what do you guys think about school streaming, and what age do you think it should be implemented, if at all?
I think streaming shouldn't be a mandatory thing that has to happen. But in high school, you should be able to take a test in a certain subject. If you really want to get better at it, and the stuff in your current year is too easy, you can take the test, and if you pass, you can go up a year.
I agree with you, but I think that in secondary school, you should be streamed based on your ability because you sort of I don't know, if you were streamed from 5 years old and you got streamed badly, then you would think that it was impossible for you to be streamed any better. But if you haven't been streamed until secondary school, then you might think it's possible to stream into a higher class, and then you're at least going to try. If you have been streamed into a bad class for the entirety of your life, then I don't think you would have had that same belief that you could, and that striving, that feeling that you want to try at least.
Personally, although I do mostly agree with what you're saying, and streaming when people are young is horrible, I also don't think streaming when you're older is necessarily good. And although I mostly agree with what William's saying, the problem is that because one of the reasons people dislike streaming is it separates friends. But the problem is, if you go into a acceleration class, you almost definitely won't know anyone there. And it'll be completely different from the friends you have in all your other classes. Personally, what I think should be done is just have extension work given to them. I actually have extension work given to me in maths because I find it too easy. But I feel like that's what everyone should be able to do. I don't think that you should be put into different classes based on ability, no matter what skill level or level you are in anything, because it can also make the dumb people feel dumber or the smart people feel slightly more stuck up.
Yes, I agree that it might make people feel stuck up or lose confidence, although, and yes, you wouldn't necessarily need it, but because you can get extension work, although it would probably be easier than asking for extension work, that might make you feel a bit, how do I put this, a bit nerdy, or that people get mad at you for basically what they would call showing off simply because you're smarter than them, which means that might help it. But yeah, I agree. I feel like another point is that if you were given the choice to get extension work and the choice wasn't made for you, then if you don't have that self-esteem, even though you can achieve, then you might not think that you are worthy to choose extension work, even though you can, if the choice wasn't made for you.
I agree. I didn't mean to emphasize or imply that teachers should force extension work. What I meant to be saying, which I'm sorry that it might have been confusing, is that if you are feeling that a class isn't challenging enough or hard enough or you're not learning enough, you should always be able to ask for extension. But I feel that that is what should happen, not streaming classes based on intellectual capability. Thank you all for this discussion we've had, but we need to move on to our next story as we only have limited time here. It will be presented by our latest, newest, freshest member, Lewis, with a debate on whether the Olympics should go on.
Yes, I found an article on The Diplomat talk about if the Olympics should go on. Well, I've found that about 80% of Japanese people disagree on the Olympics going on, as they do not believe it is good for safety, since they still have outbreaks of COVID cases, and with a 7-day average of 537 infections. But in my opinion, the main reason that they shouldn't go on is because it betrays the point of the Olympics, which is that everyone can participate. It's fair. But because of COVID, only the rich countries that have enough money to vaccinate all of their athletes will be able to compete, because you wouldn't be allowed to compete with athletes that have not been vaccinated against COVID-19.
Personally, I feel like maybe the Olympics should just be cancelled permanently, especially with the not very glamorous Brazilian Olympics. I personally feel like just the wasted space of all the facilities you have to build can greatly detriment a country. And even though they make lots of money, the Olympics Committee also takes a good chunk of the profit they make, granted they even make it, with the rise of things like piracy and COVID, which could detriment their visiting population. So personally, I just believe that we could honestly be better off with just the Olympics being mostly cancelled and having just individual sporting events that hasn't been entirely monopolized.
Now, are you talking about like just forever, just not just this year, like just no Olympics?
Yes, I am.
Well, okay. I
Well, that is just my opinion. You don't have to agree with it.
yeah, no, I don't agree with that. Um, it's like a team bonding exercise for countries and for the entire goddamn world. It's you know
Only the countries have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars in a bid to attempt to host the Olympics. And as Lewis said, it can exclude poorer countries, which, although that may not be permanent, it can be shown that they could potentially care more about the money side of things.
Now, you're talking about countries being excluded from hosting the Olympics, but I'm talking about directly not being able to participate at all wherever they are because of not having the economy to vaccinate all of their sports people.
Yeah, this is about vaccination. Event like when COVID's over and stuff. What you're implying to me is that you just think that it shouldn't exist even without COVID. The economy side of things is mostly because of COVID.
Personally, I just believe it's not like only that. The Olympics also takes a lot of money from countries. Like in 2016, Japan sent a $150 million bid to the Olympics Committee to get them to host the Olympics in Tokyo. That was rejected and they went with Brazil. They spent another $75 million in order to host them in 2020.
Also, they are spending all that money to even host the Olympics, but the Olympic Committee or the countries, when they make these new stadiums, they treat their workers very poorly. They, like, especially in Rio de Janeiro, they, like, built up in, like, really old parts of town where there was a lot of history and culture, and they just tore it all down to make a stadium that will be used for 1 year. And I think that stuff like that, the Olympics does not stand for that. And if it should continue, then they should really crack down on how the government handles making all the stadiums and, building up the infrastructure to host these games.
I do agree with you on that, but it's an international thing. The nobody like no world leaders are really going to agree on like unanimously on anything basically. It's like yeah, if they're like mm.
William just commits suicide, jumping off his train of thought, and is fucking dead. So it seems the main person that disagrees with us now jumped off his train of thought and is permanently in a coma. So, um, clearly, although I do believe that the Olympics can't go on, I feel that just morally and financially, they should only really go on if the Olympics Committee makes some major changes to how they run and host the Olympics. But the problem is, with the amount of profit they stand to make from it, the money could potentially make them keep doing this, clouding their judgment and making these morally wrong decisions.
I have to agree on that. That is what I mean. That is what I'm trying to talk about because they should, in my opinion, either be postponed or cancelled now because, like I said, some countries won't even get the chance to participate, and it is indeed morally wrong and betrays what the Olympics stand for.
So that is mostly the last of the story, with most of us agreeing the Olympics at this state shouldn't go on, and they should only really go on once major changes have been made to the way it's run. Moving on to our next story, hosted by Rye again, on music news. Do 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 do.
It is me, back from the music place again. So, Beanie, popular musician and singer from New Zealand, she has 8 million monthly streams on Spotify. She's going on tour across the country. She's going from New Plymouth to Hamilton, and she will be performing at the Michael Fowler Center in November here in Wellington. If you want more details, there is a link in the description.
Well, thank you for that music news segment. Now, we did have a few more stories, but it seems we are running short on time. So, it's time I say that this has been Things Podcast, where you get kids' views on world news. Signing out.
I feel
Mic
so
drop.
See, we are
just some fun facts about our friend Lewis in a discussion off camera. We found out that he has several nerfs when we were talking about having a nerf war. So everyone comment in the comment section if you're actually watching this far. Nice nerfs, Lewis.
We sound like 2-year-olds and we accept it.
Oh, sorry,
I want to see how quickly you can do it.
Okay, you can have this.
You did it so quick that it feels wrong.
What? Do what quick?
The editing.
No, it isn't that hard.
I mean, yeah, but like, Dylan was pretty good at
Dilbert's
editing.
just-
and
No.
Dilbert's lazy.
yes, I forgot about that. He could only do it at Dad's house, couldn't he, or some shit?
No, he could do it at his mum's. It's just he can't play games.
Ooga booga, ooga booga, ooga booga.
Okay, do you guys have anything to say?
Listen to the They Returns on Spotify. It is the newest EP, from the They. He's pretty cool. Also, the They killed Y Bjors, so he is no longer a member of this podcast. It is the They from here on out. Yep.
Shameless plug. Woo! Go why? Sorry, go the they.
Oh, you
It's me.
bitch. Oh, you.
Bend in half.
Why took my Chromebook?
What are you talking about?
I was originally using it just to.
I was just using yours for the freaking thing. I'm sorry. Well, you're gonna play games, aren't you?
Yeah,
No.
They're mine now.
Alright, the podcast has descended into madness. Send help! Send help! Send help! Send help! Ah!
No.
This isn't bloopers. This is a cry for help.
William, it's a fucking lamp. Stop
Willie,
playing
will you
with it.
stop that? I'm trying to figure out how it works.
It's a fucking lamp. It uses springs.
I mean, yeah, but the spring should be pulling it down, and it doesn't pull it down.
Oh my god, William.
Oh.
It's a lamp that moves.
Okay, she's stopping
Get
now.
over yourself.
Alright,
No.
shut up. Everyone shut up. On Friday, the 6th of August, she is going to New Plymouth in the TSB Stadium. On Saturday, the 7th of August, she is going to Central Energy Trust Arena in Palmerston North. On Sunday, the 8th of August, she's going to Tiroparaha Arena in Poirua. And on Thursday, the 12th of August, she's going to Stadium Southland in Invercargill. What the hell is that name? Invercargill. What kind of name is that, Ben? Explain to me.
It's like Cargill, just Inver.
Okay. Anyway, on the 14th of August, she's going to Trafalgar Center in Nelson. What the hell are these names? On Friday the 20th, she's going to Trustpower Bay Park Arena in Tauranga. On the 21st, she's going to Pettigrew Arena in Napier. And on the 28th, she is going to Clodlands Arena in Hamilton. She is also going to the Michael Fowler Center in November in Wellington.
Cut.
Listen,
Okay, you should make it like to
Hey,
finalize
no-
the show.
no offense, but this is quite boring to listen.
True.
I feel like,
Like
we
5
should
minutes
say-
of this.
we should
You should
just
make
say
it like in a way that's
Beanie
less
is going
repetitive.
to several places all over New Zealand.
Yeah, and
If you would
and-
like if you would like
go on
shut
to.
up, let me
Yeah,
talk.
I agree.
If you would
100%.
like to
100%.
let me
Cut this out. Cut this out. I'm stupid in the poo-poo brain. All right. Continue.
Okay,
So you
can
should
I
make
say
it like-
something after?
Beanie will begin her show here, traveling from many places.
Yeah.